Hello and welcome back to another episode of Pie Guy and Brodeur. One voice, two minds. I'm your host, Pie Guy, and before we begin, you may be wondering, you may be pondering that question, where in the world, Pie Guy, can I find the rest of these pie-tacular episodes in this one-of-a-kind podcast? That's a great question. You can find this podcast, of course, on YouTube, on the Brodeurland YouTube channel, and of course, Spotify. Now, today on this episode, we're going to talk all about the word risk-taking. That's right. We're going to dive on and really take a look at what does it mean to take risks. Now, to help me along this venture, we got to go and we got to introduce and circle back to the one, the only Brodeur of Brodeurland, Mr. Brodeur. Hey, Pie Guy. That's right. We're going to talk all about risk-taking. And you know what, Pie Guy? Risk-taking, it's a little risky. I could see that coming, Mr. Brodeur. No, but to be honest, Pie Guy, it really is. It takes a lot of courage. It takes bravery. And you got to be careful how you do it. Because if you take risks, sometimes risks can be great. And they can be learning experiences. And they can be what you need to get a boost. But we're going to talk about how sometimes they could be detrimental. So today we got to explore, how do you know when it's time to take a risk? And how do you know when it's not time to take a risk? So hang on, buckle your seatbelts. I'm ready to dive on in, Pie Guy. Well, me too, Mr. Brodeur. So what are we waiting for? Let's dive on in. Let's slice into this word. And so, Mr. Brodeur, like I always like to ask, what does it mean to be a risk taker? How can we properly, like you just said, take risks in our life? Yeah. So, Pie Guy, first let's start with the definition. So for me, my Brodeurland definition for risk taking, it goes like this. It's a person who's willing to try things, and trying things that involve fear or uncertainty in order to achieve that goal, that aspiration, that thing you're trying to achieve, so you can really become that best version of yourself. You see, to me, the essence, the key of risk-taking all revolves around the idea of uncertainty. And here's the deal, Pie Guy. Uncertainty has fear attached to it, right? Most people, including myself, we love when we know how things are going to happen because, well, it makes us confident and, in a way, more brave, right? If I know how to play that video game, right, and I know the mechanics and I know the little shortcuts and I know the little tricks, man, I'm pretty confident I could take down my brother or that little kid or my friend, whoever it is, right? Because I'm confident and I know what's going to happen because I've done that trick or that move over and over again. And it makes me think of this quote by Marl Manson. And Marl Manson says this: bravery is not the absence of fear. Bravery is feeling that fear and deciding that something else is more important. Wow, Mr. Brodeur, I really like that quote. Now that you shared that quote, I really feel like a light bulb just went off in my head, because what I'm thinking of right now is kind of like what you said. Bravery is not the absence of fear. It's more you're facing that fear. You're willing to go into that fear and persevere through it. Look, I used one of your words of the week. That's right, Pie Guy. But yeah, so true. You see, Pie Guy, through my life, and even still today, I can find myself wishing I could be more brave and courageous in many different situations. You, Mr. Brodeur, more brave? I feel like you must be brave to sing in front of your students and do all the weird, quirky things you do. Well, Pie Guy, to be honest, I have to fight fear every day. Even still, on those days I sing. Sure, it gets easier over time, but there is always a little part of me that says, am I really wanting to do this today? Why do I want to do it? Maybe it can just wait till tomorrow. Maybe I'll just skip it entirely. Not everybody else is doing it. what would they know, right? Those are the thoughts that sometimes go in my head. And in reality, we all feel this. We all think it. We all feel that fear and that anxiety, whether you're brave in that situation or not. So the key is, again, can you push through that fear and anxiety and really see yourself through? And that is what I have to do on a daily basis as I try new things. And sometimes, to be honest, when I continue to do the things that I may be confident now in doing. Okay, Mr. Broder. So if you don't mind, can you share a situation with us that you did this? I mean, you put yourself out there and had to face your fear, had to face your anxiety. So what's something you can share with us? Well, Pie Guy, I've been sharing about the singing. So, let me share the first time I did this, and then I'll share another experience. So, the first time I sang for my class, I was trying to turn the behaviors of one of my toughest classes around. And it was already hard enough to teach and really get in front of these students, but I had to do something. I had to change the atmosphere and change them. And so for me, I thought, okay, what are some gifts? What are some talents? What are some things that I love to do? And I can morph into my teaching, I guess you could say, career, my classroom, however you want to look at it. And I said, well, what better way than tap into Mr. Rogers' neighborhood that I used to grow up? So I wanted to sing his intro to his show at the beginning of the week, but of course, tweak some of his words to math and Brodeurland, right? Like, for example, it's a beautiful week in this math classroom, a beautiful week for a math class. Would you join me? Could you join me? Right? And so on. I love it, Mr. Brodeur. A good little rendition of a parody of a Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood intro. Yeah, Pie Guy. And like I said, I just ran with it. And I found myself, backtracking to go with it. So I wasn't just me singing by myself, add a little atmosphere and, feel to it with a little music, right? And ripped off the Band-Aid. And you know what? I did it. What makes it awkward a little is when they don't know how to react, because what teacher does this? What teacher goes up and sings? And not only that, I added a cartwheel at the end. A cartwheel, Mr. Brodeur. Yeah, Pie Guy, a cartwheel. It's like my signature move now, which stings because, man, the longer I go into teaching, how am I going to do a cartwheel at 50? I guess we'll worry about it then. Yeah, Mr. Brodeur. I guess you're going to have to do some exercises once you get a little older. Yeah, Pie Guy. But like I said, over the years, I started to make it into a routine. And of course, it got easier. But that first time was nerve-wracking. I mean, talk about nerve-wracking. I'm like, what am I doing? I mean, I just had to go in there and be like, let's just do it, right? Take the risk. And to be honest, the next time and so many times after, it got easier. Now, I will say, even this past Monday, I find myself still going, do I really want to keep this up? Man, how many more years I got to teach? I got to do this every Monday. That goes through my head, but I know I've got to fight through it. I know I got to fight through those negative thoughts and those things that want to stop me. All right, Mr. Brodeur. So it was hard at first, but you are saying, the more you do it, the more I guess you could say you make it into a routine, the easier it gets. Yeah, Pie Guy. But like I said, there's always that little bit of fear for me, even now, each time. It doesn't even matter if it's a song that I really feel comfortable with. There's still that little ounce, and I got to focus on just going out there and performing. All right, Mr. Brodeur. So what is the other situation you were going to share? Yeah, Pie Guy. So I'm going to go down a little bit down, I guess you could say, memory lane, right? To high school, and share how this prepared me for later. And now, I guess you could say, all right, Mr. Brodeur, I'm listening. All right, Bye Guy. So in high school, I was in marching band. And at the end of my sophomore year, I wanted to try out for drum major for the marching band. Well, let me stop you right there, Mr. Brodeur. What is a drum major? I guess you could say in a marching band. Yeah, so a drum major is somebody that leads the band, conducts them on the field, make sure the band is keeping tempo. They're going to be those individuals that are up on, like, I guess you could say, the platforms, waving their arms. That's them conducting and leading the band and keeping them in tempo with the music. Okay, Mr. Broder. So I guess you could say like the leader of the band or one of the leaders. Yeah, that's a good way of saying it, Pie Guy. And so it was risky auditioning and positioning myself out there in front of everybody. And I had to audition in front of all my peers, even my band directors, anybody that wanted to show up. And I had to learn the music. I had to practice every day and learn that music that I was going to use for my audition. And I had to go out there. I had to do it. Now, Pie Guy, long story short, I didn't get it. What, Mr. Broder? You lost? You didn't become a drum major? Yeah, correct, Pie Guy. But that risk gave me the opportunity to learn how to fight through that fear and accept the idea that, you know what, I could fail, which I did. And I will say it's not easy. And especially that being I remember that was probably one of the first major times I really had a big fail in my life. I mean, we all fail at things throughout life, but I would say that was one of those times I really put myself out there and had my major fall. Not that it was detrimental, and we'll get more into that a little bit later, but I did have to go in front of everybody, and everybody knew I didn't get it. It's not like I could hide and say, oh, I might have got it. Like, everybody knew I didn't get it. I wasn't on the list of who got it, right? Now, here's the deal, Pie Guy. Fast forward 6 or so years down the road, and I tried out for my community theater for Annie Get Your Gun. Hey, Mr. Broder, you tried out for a play? Yeah, Pie Guy. I had to sing, dance, read lines. Overall, not too bad. I did fumble, I'll say, a little with the singing part because I forgot some of the lines for the song I was auditioning with. But Pie Guy, I got a supporting part. Wow, Mr. Broder, you did? Yeah, Pie Guy, you bet I did. And here's the deal. I started volunteering to be a part of different acts when they asked that they needed, hey, does anybody want to be a dancer on this particular act or this particular sequence? And I would say, yeah, put me out there. I wanted to do, if I was going to be part of the play, I didn't want to be in it for 1 minute, right? I wanted to be in it and I wanted to go out and do everything, right? And part of that is I had that experience, right? And I failed as that drum major. But here's the deal, Pie Guy. If I never had the experience from my drum major audition, I don't think I would have really been able or maybe even ready for this risk. And Pie Guy, this audition and play experience helped, I guess you could say, pave the path for me later with me performing and singing and creating, I guess you could say, the Brodeurland show. Ah, I see, Mr. Broder. Your risks, whether you succeeded or not, helped you build up the confidence and the strength to fight through and be brave for later, I guess you could say, when you wanted to try things, new things, right? Yeah, most definitely, Pie Guy. You see, change for many people is a bit of a curse word, right? Maybe for most people. Most people are so afraid of change. We really don't allow ourselves to change or improve until really the pain of our current circumstances outweigh the pain of change. Now, you can't wait to get to that point. Think about how much quicker you could reach your goals and improve yourself if you changed right away and faced that fear and kept marching forward. I remember telling the class of 2027 at the end of the year before they moved on to ninth grade, my only regret, I told them, because this was the spark of Brodeurland, but I told them the only regret I have is I didn't do this sooner. My singing, my positive messages, my videos. I mean, I didn't even know about the videos at that point, but I look back and I go, man, if I would have started earlier, could I really have resonated with this crew? I mean it. I allowed the fear of change to hold me back. Only if I acted sooner could I have made an even bigger impact on the students and really spark this journey even quicker or sooner. Now, don't get me wrong. You got to start somewhere. And you see, Pie Guy, I started, but again, this experience fuels me to always try to start sooner rather than later. Now, again, Pie Guy, this is the first step that we've been talking about right here. All right, Mr. Broder, this is a really interesting take. So It sounds like to you, it's important to not let fear, slow you down, but to go out there and to try. Yeah, Pie Guy. And you see, I love this quote right here. It speaks volumes to this. And it goes like this. You can't swim for new horizons until you have courage to lose sight of the shore. Bam. Right there. Facing our fears and facing our anxieties. That's just the beginning of our risk-taking journey. Okay, Mr. Brodeur. So are we getting into step 2 then for our risk-taking journey? You betcha, Pie Guy. Now, we have to take action steps forward in this next step. You know what, Mr. Brodeur? I feel like with a lot of these words, especially now that we're episodes later from our first one, you always get into this action step. Yeah, Pie Guy, it is so important to take action, whether it's risk-taking, persevering, embracing mistakes. You got to do something. You can't just sit around and dwell on it or think about it. You got to get up. You got to do something. But when you take those actions and you take those steps, we tend to be more cautious when we take risks. We tend, for most people, we want to have a backup plan, a plan B, a safety net to really fall back on. Now, here's the problem, Pie Guy, with the safety net. What's the problem, Mr. Brodeur? Well, Pie Guy, when we tend to move forward, we have, again, 1 foot forward and 1 foot back on shore, back where we started. So that way we get any hint of something going wrong, we jump right back. This is what I was doing in my example when it came to singing and first creating Brodeurland. I would want to try something with those students and then chicken out at the last moment because I'm like, well, they won't know. They don't know I was thinking about doing it, right? It's no different to them. And I would jump right back to what I did before, the comfortability part of my life, or all of our lives, right? And it's like Nito Cobain says, and I've said this quote many of times, probably in previous episodes, but for the timid, change is frightening. For the comfortable, change is threatening. And for the confident, change is opportunity. With risk, here's the deal. You will never see the full reward, growth, whatever you want to call it, until you fully commit, until you jump in, until you really see change as the opportunity you need. You're right, Mr. Brodeur. A lot of times when we have a plan B, we are so focused on that, to be honest, if I'm talking about myself, I tend to not be really fully committed to my goal or task because as much as I want to achieve it, I know, well, if worst comes to worst, I'll just fall back and do this, right? You got it, Pie Guy. Take that plan B, throw it to the side, bury it, and you got to really fully commit so you can jump into these uncharted waters. Now, that may seem scary and frightening, but here's the deal. When you do that, you give yourself opportunities for growth to move forward and really achieve that success even quicker. That's the key. Quicker, because you can learn from those experiences and build the wisdom you need to become better. That's the key to risk-taking. Can you dive in? Can you fully commit? Can you give it your all? Because that's the spark you're going to need to keep moving forward. All right, Mr. Brodeur, let me ask you this. I like everything you're saying. I love this whole fully commit. So do you have any steps, any strategies you can share for us to really start using when it comes to risk-taking? Like, when do I know when it's a good time or a bad time to try? You mentioned it earlier. You were alluding you were going to talk about it. So can you jump into it? What are some strategies? How do I know when I can take a risk and when it's bad? Yes, that's a great question, Pie Guy. And that's a great way for me to segue into that. I did hint at it, I guess you could say, a little earlier. So here are 3 rules I follow. And I get this from Nito Cobain. I mentioned his quote earlier. And so I love his approach to risk-taking. And it goes like this. First, you got to ask yourself, what's the most likely thing to happen when I'm going to take that risk, right? Next, what is the best case scenario when I take this risk? And then finally, what's the worst thing, the worst case scenario that will happen when I take the risk? Now, if you can live with the worst case scenario happening and the most likely case scenario, then you know what? Take the risk. Now, if you know the worst case scenario will be detrimental, no good for your situation, you know what? That risk is not worth it. It's not worth it to put yourself back, to bring yourself down. Definitely not. Even if the most likely scenario will not be that pleasing or beneficial for you, then you know what? That again is another reason why it's no good. Don't take the risk. But if you can live with that most likely case scenario and that worst case scenario and know that, you know what? It's not going to be too bad if I fall. I can pick myself back up. I can take the risk. Kind of like me with the drum major thing, right? I'll go out there. It's not the worst case scenario, right? I can live with it. I can move on from it. I'll still be in the marching band. It's not like, oh, I didn't get marching band. It's not like everybody was like, oh yeah, he's going to get it, right? No, I was having fun. I was trying out. I talked to my friends. They had my support, but it wasn't the end of the world. See, what's going to happen is you will be able to learn from that. For me, I was able to learn from that experience and then use it to gain some knowledge, gain some wisdom to move forward and again, see some success for me later on with the play and then later on with Brodeurland. That is the key. That's the gamble of taking risk. And I guess you could say, Pie Guy, the strategies, the 3 steps, the 3 things to think about when you do a risk. All right, Pie-tacular, Mr. Brodeur. I really love it. And I love your advice. We have to think of the worst case scenario, like you said, and of course the most likely case scenario that could happen. If we can live with those, man, you're telling us take the swing, go at it, give it a try. Exactly, Pie Guy. Like me losing, again, that drum major position. It wasn't the end of the world. Singing in class. It's only 1 minute of the class, right? Maybe 1 to 2 minutes. If I mess up, if I flop, you know what? I'll try it tomorrow. We got another 60 or so minutes of class to, I guess, turn things around, right? No big deal. I took risks that I could live with, especially if they went south. I love it, Mr. Brodeur. Now, we are getting to that time where we got to wrap things up. So is there anything else you would like to share with us before we got to go? Yes, Pie Guy. I want to finish up with this, and I love this quote right here about risk by Tom Selleck. And he says this: risk is the price you pay for opportunity. So here's the deal. With risks, at the end of the day, it can be a little bit of a risk. It can be a little bit of a gamble. I guess you could say pun intended, right? But I don't even know if that's a pun, Pie Guy. Yeah, me either, Mr. Brodeur. But keep going. All right. But the more you take the risk, the more confident you will get, and the more you will be willing to try new things, to branch out. I still take risks, and I try new things, whether it's a new song, a new strategy, a new thing for my classroom. I keep trying to find more ways to improve, get better, to push the limits. But again, if I never tried out for drum major or the play, I would never have worked myself up to the position and the confidence I have now. So you got to go out there. You got to take the swings so you can live with those potential outcomes and growth that you can gain from those risks. That way you, like I just said, can grow, become that best version of yourself. Pie-tacular, Mr. Brodeur. You just got me fired up to go out there and try, to take the risks, and I guess you could say, see where I'm going to go, see how I'm going to grow. And remember, my friends, stay infinite. Don't put limits on yourself. No, expand your horizons. Go forever, just like Pie, right? And Mr. Brodeur, if you could finish us off in style with our risk-taking episode. Sure thing, Pie Guy. So always remember, you all make each day a special day by just you being you. There's no one in the whole world like you except you, and I like you just the way you truly are. It's good that you exist, but you got to go out there. You got to take the risks. You got to be willing to try. Take those action steps so you can grow. You can pick yourself back up and become that best version of yourself. So until next time, Brodeur out. Peace.